Hey y'all, iRix Guy here, back again with another 2015 MacBook review. Now the 2015 MacBook is Apple's latest laptop at the time of posting this. It's the smallest laptop and it brings in a lot of new features such as USB-C, and it's got a Retina display, and it brings in a lot of questions from people that are looking to buy a Mac. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are saying that it's overpriced and it's not powerful enough. And what I want to do is provide you with my 2015 MacBook feedback after using it for about 48 hours. Now, I've been using Macs for many years. I started using Mac computers when OS X came out. I didn't really care for them before then because I liked Unix. I was using a commercial Unix and then also Linux and FreeBSD. So I enjoyed using those operating systems. Now, when Apple came out with OS X, it was Unix that looked really nice, and you had a lot more commercial applications available for it. So it became a tool that I needed for success with my computer pursuits. So from that standpoint, I'm very familiar with the Apple operating system and the Apple hardware. And I will openly acknowledge right now that the 2015 MacBook, from a processing power perspective, it's not as powerful as the current MacBook Air. And it's definitely not as powerful as the current MacBook Pro. But with that said, I still got the 2015 MacBook, and it wasn't because of all the marketing hype that Apple puts on, because when they release a new product, they make you feel like that you need it. And by the way, I don't I don't have an Apple Watch, and I don't intend to get one. It's just not my style. So I don't buy into everything that Apple makes us feel that we need, but the MacBook I did buy. And I've got two Macs. Well, actually, I've got three now. I've got MacBook Air, iMac with Retina 5K display, and now the 2015 MacBook. But what the 2015 MacBook is going to do, it's going to replace my MacBook Air, which I've had for about 2 years. It's going to replace it as my field computer. So if you're considering the MacBook, there's a few things that you should be aware of. Now, keep in mind, I've been using the 2015 MacBook for about 48 hours. So I've been able to take it through its paces, and I'm going to tell you the pros and the cons in regards to the 2015 MacBook. So first of all, one of the things, and this isn't really a performance thing, but I'm going to go ahead and get it out of the way. The MacBook 2015 comes in 3 different colors. You can get it in gold, space gray, or aluminum. So it looks really nice. And to look at the 2015 MacBook, when it's closed, you might think that it's just an older iPad. It looks like it looks about like the size and the design of an iPad. So it's a very extremely small form factor. And if you've used a MacBook Pro like I did, and then you converted to a MacBook Air, you notice that when you went from MacBook Pro to MacBook Air, that MacBook Air was just so much lighter and so much smaller. And the same thing when you go from MacBook Air to 2015 MacBook, it's that same feeling that you got when you were going from a MacBook Pro to a MacBook Air. It just feels smaller. It's lighter. It's easier to travel with. So, from a travel perspective, the MacBook 2015, without a doubt, is the winning laptop from Apple, without a doubt. Now, so that's just size and color. Now let's break it down a little bit more. When you open up the MacBook and you start using it, you're going to notice a few things. First of all, even though it's a 12-inch display, you're going to notice that image goes all the way out to the edge of the display. So it's fully maximizing it. Because if you're using like the 2-year-old MacBook Air like I was, you would notice there was an edge between the screen and the edges of the screen and the display. And this is maximizing that full display. And I was worried that a 12-inch screen on a MacBook, going down from a 13-inch on the MacBook Air, that going down to a 12-inch screen may be hard for me, because I'm used to that extra portable screen that I've been using. But actually, the 12-inch doesn't feel too small for me. It feels perfectly fine. So I didn't feel like I had any compromises there. Now, the keyboard itself, when you start typing with it, you're going to notice it feels a little bit different. Whereas with the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro, when you were pressing the keys, they seem to push down a lot more than the MacBook 2015. that's not a problem. You'll completely get used to it like I did. It's just it's a less deep feel when you type, if that makes sense. You won't be able to appreciate it until you use it, but it's a less deep feel. But with that being said, the 2015 MacBook, they use individual LEDs to illuminate the keys. So when you look at this thing at night, the keyboard looks perfect, and you don't see all that bleed of light among the various keys. So that's a cosmetic thing, but it is an improvement. As I'd mentioned earlier, there's several colors. I got the space gray, and I think it looks really cool. It's almost it's not black, but it's almost a more black gray than silver gray. So it looks really cool, especially in low light. It almost looks black, which is awesome. The touchpad is the new, I think they call it the force click. So when you're using the touchpad with the computer on, you think you're using a touchpad just like you were with the previous generation, with the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro. Now the new MacBook Pro has the same touchpad, but with the older Mac Pro or the MacBook Air, you're not going to have this new Force Touch or whatever they call it touchpad. So when you use it, it feels the same, but if you turn the computer off, if you turn off the 2015 MacBook, so it's completely powered off, and you push that touchpad, you'll notice that the touchpad doesn't go up and down. It remains flat. So when you're touching the 2015 MacBook touchpad, it gives you the tactile feel just like the previous Macs did that were actually physically going up and down. This touchpad's not moving at all, but it gives you a feel in the finger when you touch it as if it is moving. So it's kind of a cool, from a technological perspective, it's really cool how they did that, because they did, in my opinion, did a perfect job. If you didn't tell me, if I had not pushed the trackpad, or the touchpad rather, with the laptop, the 2015 MacBook powered off, I never would have known that it wasn't physically moving up and down when I pushed it with my finger. So it's really cool. So that's cosmetic. That's size. Now let's get into what you get and what you don't get. Now with the MacBook Air, which was Apple's previously most portable laptop, you got the two USB 3 ports. You got an SD card slot, which was nice if you're using a camera and or a camcorder in the field like I do. And then you also had the obviously the headphone jack, and then the MagSafe power adapter, which you would plug that in. And if you inadvertently kicked the cable when you're walking by your desk, there was a good likelihood that it likely wouldn't pull it off your desk, because it would likely disconnect because it's magnetically held on. That was nice, except for when I didn't want the cable to come off, like maybe I knocked it with my arm and it came off. So that wasn't a deal breaker for me with the MacBook Air, but it was kind of annoying at times. I know it served a purpose so that it would protect your laptop from falling off a desk, but so that's what you get with the MacBook Air. With the MacBook 2015 MacBook, you're only getting on one side, you're getting a USB-C port, which USB-C just came out. It's a new and very small USB port. So I would describe the size of its connector probably around the same size of the Lightning connector that you plug into an iPhone, an iPad, an iPod Touch, etc. So it's from a size perspective, it's very nice. What's cool about it, unlike the Lightning connector that's used for charging a device, USB-C is present among various brands. So it's not an Apple-specific port type, which that's good from the perspective, just like USB, because with a standard that's shared among multiple brands, you're going to see more devices that have that type connector. So just like USB, as it called on, as we move from serial ports up to USB way back when, we're going to start to see more USB-C devices coming out to market. But until then, it's perfectly fine because, and you can check the link within this video's description to find the MacBook 2015 as well as these cables that I'm about to talk about and solar chargers. But using USB-C currently, even though there aren't many USB-C devices out there, This little cable that you can find within this video's description, you just plug it into your USB-C port, and then boom, you've got a USB 3.0 port, just like you use, like was present in your MacBook Air and your MacBook Pro. So it's an advantage from the perspective that you're now charging by way of USB. So what you can do with that adapter, then you can get, and I've got it within this video's description, solar panels, to where you can be off the grid and recharge your laptop by way of a USB connection. Likewise, USB battery banks. If you don't want to carry solar panels around, just take you a USB battery bank, put it in your backpack, and if you need to recharge your 2015 MacBook, you can do it by way of USB. Recharging by way of USB was not an option for the MacBook Air or the MacBook Pro. So that's an advantage for enhanced portability. You're able to take it out on the road and recharge using USB, which makes it a lot more convenient. What you don't get with the 2015 MacBook, as I mentioned, you don't get the SD card slot. So, again, check out that adapter within this video's description. Get you a little inexpensive SD card reader and carry it with you. The good thing is, even with carrying that little bitty converter cable and that little bitty SD card reader, it's adding a minimal amount of weight. It's a lot less weight and bulk than you get from the heavier MacBook Air and the heavier MacBook Air accessories. And the power, the USB wall charger that came with the 2015 MacBook, it's a lot smaller than the wall charger that came with the MacBook Air or the MacBook Pro, smaller and lighter. And then likewise, if you didn't want to use that, there's a lot of aftermarket wall plugs that will enable you to charge USB devices. So what I've also added within this video's description is a third-party cable that's USB-C to a USB 3.0 style that you could use with an abundance of readily available USB wall chargers for enhanced portability. So that's the thing. From a portability perspective, you're able to use it's a new technology, USB-C, but the cables themselves are very readily available. And you're not locked into using potentially more expensive Apple proprietary cables like you do with like you did with Lightning cables, etc. Now keep in mind that there's a lot of third-party Lightning cables out now for the iPhones and the iPads and the iPod Touches, but it's still nice having something just like the new USB standard. So that's how your MacBook, how you connect external devices to your MacBook 2015. That's how you charge your MacBook 2015. And that brings up an interesting point. What if you want to charge and connect an external USB device to your 2015 MacBook? Well, Apple has an official adapter that basically allows, and I'll include it within this video's description as well, but it allows the laptop to charge, but then also gives it a USB port as well. So that's something you could use if you were using the 2015 MacBook more as in an office type setting instead of on the go, and you needed to be able to keep it charged while you're using whatever USB devices, because obviously you can connect a USB hub to that and then have multiple USB ports. So that's one side of the MacBook 2015. The other side, you've got a headphone jack. So that's all you're getting with with input-output. But the internal storage, even with the base model 2015 MacBook, is 256 gigs, and it's flash. Now, granted, that's not a lot of storage, but it's more than enough for on-the-road functions. My MacBook Air that I had, it only had 128, and that was more than enough for me, because I stored most of my documents in iCloud, and then when I was traveling, I would carry a USB 3.0 external hard drive, and I would store my videos and my photos on that. So I didn't store them internally on the MacBook's internal storage. So the storage is fine with the MacBook 2015. The display is nice. It's Retina. You did not get Retina at the time of posting this. You do not have Retina in the MacBook Air, but you do have Retina obviously in the MacBook Pro. Will I regret getting the MacBook if they come out with a MacBook Air with a Retina display. I don't think I will, and the reason being is that once you go, and this is all a matter of what your intended use for the laptop is. For me, once I go lighter and smaller, and I open up the ability to recharge by way of USB, which means I can use battery banks and solar panels, as I mentioned previously, it would be hard to go back to something larger. Now keep in mind, this is my secondary computer, because my primary is an iMac with Retina 5K display, so that's my studio computer. So this is my computer for travel and quick field edits. It will do Final Cut Pro. It's definitely not something you would want to get if video editing is your primary purpose. If video editing is your primary purpose for a laptop, I would definitely recommend a MacBook Pro. And that's just my personal recommendation. And that's if you want to stick with laptop. My honest recommendation for video editing would be the iMac with Retina 5K display. Or if you really need something more powerful, consider a Mac Pro, but that's out of the price point for most people. It's fast, but it's not, as far as using Safari, email, messaging, etc., I don't notice a difference in speed. Where I do notice a difference, if I go into Final Cut Pro 10 and I'm exporting let's just say a 2 or 3 minute or 6 minute video, it's going to take longer to export that using compressor than the MacBook Air did. And both of those computers and the Mac Pro, and the MacBook Pro rather, those would all take significantly longer than the iMac with Retina 5K display. So it's what you're looking for. What's the intended purpose for purchasing this Mac computer? Now, if you're not an on-the-go person, I would highly recommend just getting an iMac desktop. It wouldn't have to be the iMac with Retina 5K display. Just get you an iMac, because you're probably going to enjoy that a lot more. But if you want something ultra portable, and you're not, maybe you don't even care that much about video editing, it could be your primary computer for web browsing and mail, email, etc. I mean, it's fully capable of doing that. But, again, if you're into video editing and it's going to be your primary computer, do not get the 2015 MacBook. But if it's your field computer and you're into video editing and you've got a primary computer, get the 2015 MacBook, because it's smaller, lighter, and a lot more portable. Trying to think of anything else. Oh, the camera that's built in, the FaceTime camera. I think it's 480, it may be 480p, so it's not as high of resolution as the MacBook Air or the MacBook Pro. So if you're using it for professional video conferencing, you may not find that to be great. Also, there's no Thunderbolt port. So if you use external Thunderbolt devices for storage, that's not going to be an option with your 2015 MacBook. Whereas the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro, they have a Thunderbolt port. So that's another thing to consider. And then obviously, as I mentioned earlier, no SD card slots. Let's bring your own USB-C SD card reader, or get that adapter within this video's description, or go USB-C to USB 3.0. and then plug in your USB SD card reader. So, do I regret buying the 2015 MacBook? Not at all. It's completely replaced my 2-year-old MacBook Air. As I mentioned, it's smaller and lighter. I'm getting a Retina display now, which is a lot better. And for my purposes, it's perfect. But I hope you take this video into consideration, because there's a lot of people that will say that you need something just because it's Apple. And as I mentioned, I love Apple products, but I don't want you to think that I'm an Apple fanboy from the perspective where I've got to have it all. I don't have Apple Watch. I have no intentions to get one. And if it's something that I feel is not worth buying, I mean, I'll tell you that. But this is why I bought the 2015 MacBook. So I hope the information helps you decide if you're looking for a MacBook, or just a Mac computer in general. I hope this video is of value. And again, check the link within this video's description. I've got it all there. And be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It's youtube.com/IRIXGuy. And y'all have a good day.